right, what's going on, winners? This is Coach JC, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Win All Day podcast show. I am super stoked today. I have a special guest in the house, but before I do introduce him, I'm bringing him on the screen right now. This is my main man, Anthony Trucks. But you guys know what time it is. If you're a frequent viewer or listener, it's time for our Win All Day winning confession. And if it's your first time, we believe at Win All Day that if you want to live a life of winning, then you got to speak winning words. So we actually say our Win All Day winning confession. Anthony, I'm going to say it if you could just repeat after me, my man.
Let's do it.
Today is my day.
Today is my day.
Nothing will get in my way.
Nothing will get in my way.
Of me being the best.
Of me being the best.
Version of me.
Version of me today.
I am here on purpose.
I am hero purpose.
I have a purpose.
I have a purpose.
I am strong.
I am strong.
I am passionate.
I am passionate.
I am fearless.
I am fearless.
I choose faith.
I choose faith.
I am a winner.
I am a winner.
I will win.
I will win.
And win all day.
And win all day.
Let's go, baby. Hey, without further ado, I want to welcome you to the Win All Day podcast show. In this episode, I have my main man, Anthony Trucks, the shift coach. He helps people make shift happen. And this is an ex-NFL football player, a Christian, a man of God, featured all over, a motivational speaker. And I just look forward to chopping it up and hearing how he makes shift happen. So my man, Anthony Trucks, welcome to the Win All Day podcast show, my man.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I think of all the days that I had podcasts scheduled after a long week, this was the one I needed because I needed to borrow that energy from you, bro. My day's all kickstarted. I don't even need my tea this morning.
Let's go. Man, I'm super stoked to have you, bro. And I appreciate you saying a winning confession with me.
Yeah.
Man, I've had a lot of our colleagues and friends that just have reached out multiple times and said, you and Anthony got to connect, both your energy, both of what you guys are doing in the world. And so I'm just excited to chop it up with you today and get to know you a little better and introduce you to the Win All Day audience. Let's do this, man. For the people that are listening or viewing right now that may not even know who you are, let's take us back. Just tell us a little about your backstory and how we got to where we are today, brother.
Let's do it, man. So my story is an interesting one. We all have interesting stories where we're on a podcast, obviously, but I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was given away by my mom at 3 years old into the foster care world, me and my 3 siblings. And so I endured a whole lot of craziness, like starvation, torture, beatings, weird things from the age of about 3 until 6. And then at 6 years old, I got put into a family. It's my current family, which is interesting because I'm the only Black person in an all-white family at the time. And so I grew up through dynamics of just not having a sense of like acceptance and being like a person that mattered, to be quite honest. My own mom didn't love me. Then at 14, I finally was able to be adopted. So I got adopted by this family. For the first time, I knew this is my world. I tried this thing I wasn't good at, but I loved the idea of it, which was football. I went around, I could hit people and not get in trouble for it. So it's kind of a cool idea. But I was trash, man. I was horrible at the game. And I navigated for a couple of years, pretty much like slowly giving up. And then at one point in time, it's off season in my freshman year of high school, I go, man, I don't want to be that guy. I want to be great at this. So I leaned in and did things that were out of character, very uncomfortable, came with ridicule and judgment. However, 7 months later, I was a monster, dude. Like I had this inset mentality of I've done too much work in the dark for you to take what's mine in the light. And it kind of drove me to this place where I was a shifted identity. I was a different human inside. And that turned into a college scholarship, had my first son in college sophomore year, met my real dad my sophomore year, had my first college start my true sophomore year, progressed a few years later, did pretty well in college, was blessed to play in the NFL. 3rd year, I got hurt because NFL stands for not for long, bounced around from team to team. And then I broke my life, man. I didn't know who I was without the game of football. Ended up having 2 more kids with my wife at the time, high school sweetheart. Ended up divorced for 3 years, a business that was up and down in the gym industry, had my degree in kinesiology, but I didn't know how to really make that thing turn into income and freedom later. Stumbled upon the world of speaking in an accidental way, and then kind of leaned in and started telling more of the story I'm telling you now, a little bit more strung out, we'll call it, opened up. And after 3 years of divorce and crazy, I remarried my ex-wife. We have an amazing marriage. I get to travel and serve the world. I just celebrated my oldest son's 18th birthday at the University of Oregon, where he's a freshman, where he was born. Like, cool world, man. So I get to travel around. And at the same time, this whole entire week, I was traveling, going to Amazon and one of their offices in New York and consulting their people for about 7 hours. Like it's a cool life, man. I am winning. I'm winning in life. And there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to making that happen. But I always have been and always will be willing to do that work.
Wow, bro. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So where'd you play in the NFL? What team?
Buccaneers, Redskins, and Steelers. Buccaneers, the Washington Commanders, and the Steelers. Yeah.
Oh man, what a story, bro. What a powerful story of overcoming. And so we're talking right now, basically what I heard you say is makeshift happen is based around identity. Is that what I hear you
Oh
saying?
yeah. What's the
So
thing?
let's,
It's an
yeah, go
identity
ahead.
shift, 100%.
Yeah, so let's jump into that, man. So, like, obviously, so many people are listening or watching right now, and maybe they're not living the life they want to live. And today, we're going to talk about making the shift. And I think living the life that you desire to live and what you
Yeah,
want, the outcome you want, starts with you internally and who you believe you are, right? And so you're
always.
you're given away, you're adopted, you go through, a football career for a short amount of time, go through an injury, then you go through a divorce. Just like me, there's a lot of these circumstances and situations that were external that could have created who you believed you were.
Yeah.
How and what did you do to make sure that those things didn't become your identity? Or was there times where you maybe were in an identity crisis and you didn't know what to do? Talk us
Yeah.
through some of
Well,
that.
interesting thing is, so identity shifts happen either on demand or when crap hits the fan. Either you choose to do it or something goes sideways. And identity just is a simple working, we'll call definition. It's who you are when you aren't thinking about who you are. It's that
Come on.
person that's flowing through life, and then the things you do create the things you have. Now, I don't think that there's any point in time where I was always creating it until I was about 33 or 4, to be quite honest. Most of my life, like many people, it was when crap hit the fan. Something changed or some new opportunity came up, and I was just kind of adjusting to fit that dynamic. And so because of that, yeah, as a kid, I was wired a certain way because of how I was treated, how I wasn't treated, right? What was given to me, what was shown to me, what I was told about money, told about love, told about work, told about what I could do. And we all live our lives that way. And then at a certain point, I got to the area of my life where I woke up one day and I was like, I don't like this dude. Like, it was like January 2016, the New Year's Day. I was like, I looked in the mirror and didn't like the guy looking back at me.
Come on.
And that was the first time I go, man, how do I change the destination I'm headed towards? And that's a big thing most people don't think about, is we are all headed towards a destination at this very moment based on who you are. And so if you don't rewire yourself, you're going to a place that if you extrapolate that, you might not actually like. And for me, I finally woke up, I don't like where this dude's headed, and I got to change the trajectory. And it wasn't about making a commitment to change. And I want to have the emotion and motivation to go here. It's like, no, whoever this guy is every day when he's showing up, he's not going the right way. Something about him's got to adjust. And that was the shifts, right? I had to shift the small parts of me to change the end trajectory destination. So that was the kind of stuff where I first went in and go, okay, well, let me figure out what's wrong with this dude. And that was the hard part. What's wrong with me? What do I got to work on? Not so much what's wrong with me, but what am I doing wrong? We'll call it. Then from there, what must I do? Which is usually just like football when I was 15. Out of character, comes at ridicule, like it's cast out. I had to do those things, but that's what allowed me to get back to having a marriage that was in place, having a great father, like having me being a great father, and all these little unique aspects. But in the beginning, for everybody, you don't actually create it on purpose. It's something where you have to intentionally at some point wake up and go, I'm going to take control of this person.
Wow, wow, wow. So let's talk about this for a second, right? You mentioned taking control of the person, and you made me think of identity, right? We get to create a story based around the things and the circumstances that happen to us, right? And there's a lot of people
You do.
that they allow the circumstance and situation to control them, and they become part of that situation. Now they're playing victim, and
Yeah.
now all they know is my mom gave me away, I was adopted,
Mhm.
I was abandoned, and they create this entire story that doesn't serve them. Very similar to me, brother. Like, when I came out to ORU to play basketball in 1999 from New Jersey, man, I had a story, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go to NFL, and I was going to be this basketball player, and this opportunity was awesome. And I was going to rescue my mom and my sister from this poverty-stricken life raised by a single mom. I got a young girl on campus pregnant, threw away the basketball opportunity, and I ended up in a custody battle, $400,000 in debt, suicidal, down out, depressed, because my whole
Yeah.
identity was in basketball, and that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And I remember the same conversation that you talked about having, looking in the mirror and hating what I saw, living with so much guilt, so much shame. And I
Yeah.
cut ties with Jonathan Keneally, right? And I did strategic things, make the shift, but I cut ties with Jonathan Keneally, what is my full name. People don't
Yeah.
even know me by that today because they know me by Coach JC, because
Yeah.
I created this new identity. And so I
Yeah.
think what's powerful that you said, and I want you to talk on this, you're telling the listener and the viewer right now, whatever happened to you doesn't define you. What you do for a career or a business isn't your identity and who you are, that you can create a new identity, and that as
Yeah.
an individual, you have the power to do that. Is that what you're telling the listener and the viewer, brother?
Yeah. And the thing is 100% yes. And we've already done it. That's the thing is,
Come
again, it's
on.
either happened on demand or crap. You've already done it. I mean, who we are now, I look at it this way. If someone was to step in, let's say somebody's obviously older than 30 years old, let's say it. If you were to take your 15-year-old self and throw him in your life today, 15-year-old you would crawl in a corner and cry. It's just too much. So
Yeah.
obviously you've in some way progressed. You just did it without a true intention. And the interesting thing you mentioned before is like the stories that we have. There's this statement, I don't know who said it, but this great when it goes, there is no meaning in life except for the meaning we place upon it. There's no meaning to moments or like just the meaning we give it. Now, interestingly, the way I look at it is like, yeah, the story was written. In fact, like there is a purpose for life, right? All of us have that. And I was given these moments of life and that story, to be honest, my mom didn't love me. This didn't happen. It's not about the story serving us or not serving us, right? I think that for me, that story is true. This happened in my life. The genuine change for my life was, how am I going to respond to it? That was it. How am I going to keep responding in the manner of anger and disdain and seeking retribution? Am I going to respond in a way of doing better because of the less, because of the worse? So the story for me, for some of the meanings, hasn't actually changed. I still know that that was my background. That's what took place. But my response to it every day is vastly different than it was when I was a kid growing up. And that's the choice we get to make, because that choice goes, okay, if my response is going to be different, who am I going to choose to respond? For you as JC, my response is JC, no longer Jason Keneally. This is my new response today. And then that happens day after day after day. And in the beginning, it's like, I don't know who this guy is. It's kind of weird. Like no one buys this guy. It's like people are making fun of me because I'm doing this now. I'm going to church now. I'm talking, right? And eventually a year later, they go, damn, that guy's still doing it. He's really still, and then like 5 years later, it's like, man, I love that dude. I love how consistent he is, what he does, I love who he is now. Right. But that's a journey each of us have to take in the response.
Bro, I love what you said. And the meaning of anything in life only has the meaning you choose to give it. Tony Robbins said that. And here's how I know. And I love the quote, because at that lowest time that I mentioned earlier, like, you're going to love this, Anthony. I had an interaction with a police officer when I was looking to take my life. Make a long story short, the police officer and me had an interaction, a conversation that probably saved my life, but definitely changed my life. And he said this, he said, the meaning, or he said, everything you're going through while I'm at this low point, after pulling me over, said, I don't know what you're going to do in life, kid, but I feel like you're going to go on and do great things, and everything you're going through, it all had to happen. And I'm like, I remember it like it was yesterday, right? And he let me off. He could have arrested me. You know, I was going over 100 miles an hour trying to take my life. Make a long story short, I'm driving back to Tulsa through the streets, through the roads of Iowa, and that kept replaying through my mind, Anthony. What does this mean? It had to happen. I'm $400,000 in debt. I'm not seeing my daughter. I just went up to see her and I couldn't see her. And check this out. I get back 1 a.m. I get up to be a strength and conditioning coach. At 4 a.m., I go to be a strength and conditioning coach. I come home to my 600 square foot apartment, down and out, depressed, right? Feeling sorry for myself. And that whole thing that police officer said is replaying through my mind. It had to happen. It had to happen. What does that mean? I pick up a Tony Robbins book the next day, Anthony, and it says, the meaning of anything in life only has the meaning you choose to give it. I made a decision. I enrolled in a Bible school. I got a hold of personal development, Tony Robbins, creating a whole new story for my life, created Coach JC, and changed everything.
Yeah, so it's got to happen, man. That's the crazy thing is these stories we all hear, like they think that we're special and there's something unique about us. It's not. In fact, it's the people that have had the hardest, longest roads that make a choice that are the ones that stand up the tallest. So everybody's going through their own version of difficult right now. That's an option for everyone.
Come on.
But you have to take it. You can't wait for life to kick you in the face sometimes. You kind of got to step up and go, all right, I'm tired of taking the lumps. I'm going to start dishing them out. Let me see if I can take actual control today. And that can happen today. Like, you know, like it ain't got to be some, here's the thing. Here's the one thing I think that we're talking about too is there's moments that we have these precipice moments, these catalyst moments. Everybody, you know, you're talking about this guy I pulled over, saw going on. It's like this shining star moment to talk to. I think people sometimes wait for that moment to make the change.
Wow.
Because I think we can easily, if you just wake up one day and go, you know what? I don't like this. I thinking about Tony Robbins. He's like, I was doing the dishes in the tub one day, and I got up and said, done with this, and started running down the beach. It sounds crazy at first, but that was it. It wasn't this, I got in a car accident and, you know, I got pulled over, or, you know, I woke up one day and looked in the mirror and that was it. I just looked at myself. I go, I don't like this dude, man. That was it. So if you're waiting for the moment to change your life, stop. Just change your life.
Wow. The power of choice. And so you're making me think too, we're talking about like stories. And like a lot of times, you know, I was thinking when you were talking, what's her name? Byron Katie, right? She wrote the book, The 4 Questions, right? Yeah. A lot of times we're asking, because you're talking about the response, right? Life isn't what happens to you, it's how you respond. You said earlier, how true is that, right? We might not dictate the circumstance. My mom gives me away. I hurt myself. I get an injury, you know, 3 years in, trauma, adopted, but we get to choose a response. And I remember Byron Katie's book, I think it's called The 4 Questions, where she puts you through these series of questions, asking yourself. And I got really good And now I'm able to coach people. And if you want a different answer, ask yourself different questions. And so
Always, yeah.
how powerful was that in your life? Because you talked about the meaning and, these traumatic situations. How powerful was it for you? I got a hold of the word of God. I got a hold of a verse, Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to things of this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I started to understand the power of mindset. I started studying everything I get my hands on, understanding that this is a powerful thing. How much did asking yourself different questions and training your mindset, just like when you're an athlete, training on the field, how much time for you to make the shift went into becoming mentally strong and conditioning your mindset, mental performance?
Funny, when I was doing this, it wasn't a matter of like even paying attention to the mindset. However, the question you asked first before that was the one that was a powerful one. Because what I did is at that time, I was just framing, we'll call it perspective. This was 2016. My life at the time was I had got a big contract consulting for $250,000 in the fitness realm in this big company. It was like $220,000 of profit. I'm sitting comfortably for a while, right? At the same time, I'm traveling around doing stuff where I'm single, but I have a couple women I'm talking to. So I'm thinking it's fun to go around and travel to like the Bahamas for a few days and travel, just do all that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, I'm just kind of loose. If I didn't have the kids, I wasn't around. If I did, I was with them, right? It was just this back and forth. And so I woke up this day, I was unhappy with this guy. And what it really led to was me canceling everything. I cut all women out. I stopped going places. I wasn't drinking and going out to the clubs on the weekends. I would sit in my house, and I had this little townhouse, and I had this brown, weird, like brown couch, and I had this wall. It was like a white, teal, and like, brown ocean styled room. And I sat in the brown couch, looked at the brown wall, and then looked at my life. And I go, okay, why'd your marriage fall apart? Why isn't your business doing very well? Why aren't you a present father? Why aren't you in better shape? And I'm not saying this right now because you brought it up. I'm being transparently honest. I can tell you the layout of the house, where the windows were at, like how I would sit there. I didn't even turn anything on, right? And so the idea was I wanted to ask myself the questions to get the true answer I didn't feel like giving myself.
Come on.
And in
Wow.
that, it was a lot more clarifying, because for a lot of us, I think the interesting thing is we don't typically like being alone because we don't like who we're alone with. And that was 100% me. We'll go and distract ourselves with friends and parties and women, because if you're alone, you got to be in your own thoughts. This was the first time I sat alone in my thoughts, and those questions led to vastly different actions to create different answers. And that for me was the hardest, longest journey of my life to this date in terms of personal growth intentionally, but it's what created my life to this moment now.
Wow, bro. What a powerful, powerful statement, man. You don't spend time alone with yourself because you don't like who you're with. I mean, listen, so talk about this for a second, man, because shift happens. We're talking about identity. We're talking about stories. We're talking about questions. It makes me think of something like, I think there's a lot of people grinding and hustling and trying to make moves and make things happen. But I hear you saying, and this is very similar to what I did, I stopped focusing on the outcome. Once I knew what I wanted and what I didn't like, I just started to focus on who I need to become as a man.
It works.
And so I want you to talk about that for a second, because, I know the God came into the equation somewhere. You put Christian on the Instagram, and like, so where did God come into the equation? What are some of the things you did to become the man you need to become to absolutely make that shift? Because here's what we do know, Anthony. I don't want the person to be misled thinking you just ask yourself a question and God's going to drop a miracle and you feel like a new person. That's not what happened to me. Like, I believe in miracles, but I had to do some work. I had to go through a process. So what's some of the things you did that could help the person on their side make this shift, brother?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I actually accepted Christ when I was 18 years old, and it was always a journey and has been a journey, since then. So when I was in those windows, I was just far from my faith. And I did come back to the faith. Obviously, I came back to church, and that was a humongous anchor to it all. That's really where the base of my current marriage is. It's the fact that we have something outside of us that leads the direction of the marriage. So if I don't want to do this, it ain't about whether or not I feel prideful or doing it. It's what needs to be done, whether it's biblical or because my wife or the marriage needs it. It's a separation there. The other part of it is when it comes to the aspect of like what actions I took and how I just show up, a lot of the things I did are based in this concept of, like you said, who do I want to be? And really it boils down, in my opinion, life boils down to moments, just moments. When you say the outcome I desire, I look at it as there is an outcome of things, tangible things. There's also an outcome of who, right? Who do I want to be? And when I think about that who, it's like, I would much rather have something, but be happy with who I am at the moment than have something and hate who I am. For example,
Wow.
if somebody goes and says, I have made $1 million, but you've made that $1 million and your wife hates you, your kids don't see you, you're out of shape and you're unhappy with yourself, well, then it's not a really well-earned or happy exploring of $1 million. You're like, I got 1 million, but everything else sucks. I'd much rather take longer to get to the million if it's the goal, but love who I am when I get there. My wife loves me. My kids want to hang out with me, so we can use that money to create experiences, right? And I'm in a healthy body. So the idea is it's not, again, like you said, it's not the achievement, but it's who you are when you get to it. And that leads to one question every day, genuinely, multiple times a day for me. The question is, all right, I'm living my life. Something comes in the pipeline and it's hard. This is the reality of life. It's hard. Breaking it from my normal is hard, especially creating a new person. To create JC is hard. But here's the question I used to ask myself. The person in the future who has everything I'm aspiring to have, what would that person do?
Come on.
Is it? What would they do? So for example,
Come on.
if I want to be in shape and I want to be able to go and take a hike and walk around, well, I'm sitting here and it's lunchtime and I look at this, I got candy here from Halloween, right? Because Halloween just happened, or go get
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
it's like, well, what would the person who's healthy do? Well, they wouldn't go grab a handful of candy. If it's something where it's like I'm fighting my wife and I go, okay, what is the person who's sitting there old with their spouse at 80 years old? What does this person do? Well, they would apologize. I don't want to, but that's what I'm gonna do. That's what that person would do, right? It's that simple. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be questions that lead you to figure out what the actual answer is supposed to be, and then do that thing because it lines you up to become that person later. Because here's the unique thing. Eventually, you don't have to ask the question. We as human beings have this interesting thing that's so heavily tied to a goal for alignment. We got to be in alignment. If I say this, I got to be right. If I say I got to be right. And so usually we'll say things and live our life in a way to make that right. Or we won't do things that are outside of who we see ourselves to be.
Come
I'm
on.
not a thief. I'm not a criminal. So I wouldn't do things that thieves and criminals do. It's just not who I am. So once you do these things questionably for a while, eventually they become your identity. It's something you've done over time, to where now it's not a question of do I do it or not. It's like a guttural instinctual response to do that thing. And now what happens is you have the life you want, the achievements that you want, and it feels like effortless effort. It's naturally just who you are to do these things. And that's a beautiful space of peace and prosperity for people.
Wow. Man, if you're just joining us, this is Coach JC. This is Anthony Trucks, my man, and he is spinning a lot of knowledge. You just gave somebody a golden nugget that could change their entire marriage. We're talking about identity shift. We're talking about winning in life. Yes, but I don't want what you just said, bro. If you're watching or listening right now, I don't want to undermine what God did, right? And it's a story of restoration. But you don't hear this a lot, brother. You said earlier you got divorced and then you got remarried to your ex-wife, and you just gave the person, listen, I believe a man, a golden nugget that could change the entire trajectory of their marriage. And so many times you said it's not easy, but it's a simple formula, is we make decisions based off of who we are currently at the moment and based off of feelings and emotions rather than who we want to be. And how many times does that mess up relationships in any area, but especially marriages, man?
It does, man. And it's interesting because we always, Fabulous had this statement. He's a rapper from back in our day, maybe. And he says, it's okay to lose your pride over someone you love, but don't lose someone you love over your pride. It's like a rap verse. I'm like, how poetic is that, man? But that's the truth. It's like those moments for me in my marriage. I will 100%, if I'm wrong, swallow the pride quick. Hey, I messed up. Because for me, that the longer run matters. I don't care if I'm right or wrong about who took the dogs out to the bathroom. I'm not going to get into a stupid argument long term on that. But there are some I'll battle, right? But the idea is I think, like you said, we fight to keep the pride about the person we are right now. And if we took a look at our lives, if we're not happy with everything, that person has to elevate. We need to make some shifts. But if you keep fighting for who you are, I think Gay Hendricks said this, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Come on.
And I was like, that's beautiful, because that's the truth. If you fight to stay right in the situation, you get to stay in the same position you are with the same life, and no one wants to typically be there.
Wow, bro. And here's the reality. If you're listening right now, like a lot of times what Anthony's saying is it's not the situation that might trigger you. Like so many times we major on minor things in relationships, especially marriage, and it blows up to this big thing. And what Anthony just said, I think is a game changer. Take a step back, look in the mirror and look internal rather than looking external. It probably wasn't your wife or your spouse. It probably wasn't the situation, something so stupid that created this disconnect and now an argument, a fight, but it was probably some insecurity, right? It was probably a feeling and your pride stepped up, and it was probably fear. We know fear triggers a lot of stuff. And like, are you going to major on minor things and like throw away your calling, your purpose, your marriage? Like this, bro, you're spending so much knowledge. I want to stay there for a second, because what happened? You got divorced, and then what was that story of reconciliation and restoration? What's some things that happened? I mean, is that a God thing? I mean, obviously you did some work, she did some work to come back and get remarried. And how long, like from when you were divorced, did you guys get back together and stuff?
It was 3 years, man. And then we're about 6 years deep now, a little over 6 years now. But it's an interesting story, because so for 3 years, we were both just doing our thing, man. We were 16 years old when we got together, and then we were kids having kids. It's like, we didn't really grow. And so what ended up happening was, we had the separation. And then I went through this journey where I was finally kind of asking those questions and navigating life and going, I don't like this so much, right? And I didn't know, but separately and simultaneously, she was also doing work. Her brother had given her a Joyce Meyer's book. And there was a day where she's like, I woke up on a Sunday and I was maybe a little hungover. I had no friends to call. The kids weren't there. She's like, you weren't there. There's nothing to do. She's like, I just looked around my life and go, I can't live this life. This can't be life. And so she picked the book up, started reading, and she's like, it was like speaking right to her. Now, this is, again, without any of my interjection. I had nothing. That was just her doing her own thing.
Yeah.
And then separately, I was doing my stuff, cutting people off, having the conversations. And I want to say around August window, maybe a little earlier, maybe June-ish. She reaches out and goes, hey, I just, obviously this window of time, we're not connecting in that manner. We're not talking about life. We're just, being co-parents. And so she's like, hey, I want to take the kids out of this town. I want to go get away. I want to go to Costa Rica. It's supposed to be safe. And she's like, I know you can't be away from the kids for that long. So do you want to come out there with us? We could be in separate places. You don't got to be together. Just be out in the same area. So, the kids are there. I was like, yeah, at this time I could travel and I could work from a computer. So it wasn't a problem. So, yeah, sure enough, we travel out there, and then the way I explained it, man, is we just kind of sat and talked, but it wasn't with the intention of getting back together. It wasn't this, can we mend this? It was not it. It was just two people talking. And I explained to people as it was me getting to know someone for the first time I'd known for 16 years. Like, it was a different human, different way she thought, operated. She had shifted her identity, quite literally, right? And so we have this conversation, and then we kind of part ways. We go back to, our area of California with the kids after the vacation. And in that window of time, I'd been talking to somebody, like when I was on a date. So when I got back home, I was about to go on a date. She comes over the night before and she goes, hey, if I don't say this, I'll regret it. I just been praying on it, and God told me that it was a time to ask. She's like, but I want to try us again. And in my head, I go, oh, I don't know about that. It was tough, man. It wasn't an easy thing going this whole journey. And I mean, we had our fights and back and forth, dude. Things got crazy. And so I was like, I don't know. I said, to be honest, I couldn't see me doing it without getting we'll call it the support from the people in my life, because she had done some things that were pretty bad. And so the people that supported me through it, I couldn't just go ahead and take her back without them knowing, because they'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Are you serious? So I told her, you got to talk to him. Now, I didn't tell her when. I didn't even give her like a definitive, but it wasn't even that if she did it for sure, I would get back with her. It wasn't even the case. But I went on this trip to Portland to work with a buddy, did some work, and came back home a few days later. I got some calls like, hey, I talked to her. I'm like, what do you mean you talked to her? This is like a while after. It wasn't like immediately. So I was like, I'm not even sure what they're talking about. They go, yeah, she came out and she talked to us about the situation. I go, did she? And all of them, like, they're like, yeah. And my buddy Jay was like, bro, hey, I'm telling you right now. He's like, I didn't take it easy. I laid into her. I talked to her like everything she needed to hear. And he said, she took it like a woman, dude. And he goes, to be honest, I give you my blessing. And so everybody, same thing. They all gave me the blessing of trying it again. And so that was 6 years ago. Now we have a really cool friggin' marriage, man. And it was, I think it's better because of the hardship. I think it's hard to explain, but some people go, oh, I don't want to have the hardship and the crazy. And to be honest, it's not till you've gone through like battle with people. That's why I think soldiers are so close. It's not till you go through a genuine battle with somebody that you get that deeply connected to all of their humanity that you come back and it's like, dude, this is unbreakable. I don't know. I can't fathom what would happen or would have to happen for us not to be together till we die. It would take an act of God, literally. Like, I can't see me or her doing anything crazy or stupid. And so because of that, there's a stability, there's a base. There's also not a laziness, because when we've lost it, you know how precious and fragile it is.
Wow.
Quality of showing up in a certain way, as well as appreciating it, and not like, it's not like this freak out thing, bro. It creates this peace. And so life is oddly in a beautiful flow, man.
Dude, all day, bro. What a story. And I asked you that because I know one other guy that's done that, brother. And like it's a rare thing, right? You get divorced and you see people, throwing mud at each other. They hate each
Oh, we
other.
did.
They're fighting over
We
the
did.
kids. It's
We
like,
did.
and so I went through a divorce at a young age, and I wanted the marriage to work, right? And I fought to be a dad, but the other side wasn't willing to do that. And so I had to fight to get full custody, and I got full custody of my daughter when she was 10, raised her. And I always hate that aspect when parents go through divorce and they don't want to be together, but the kids are in the middle. And so it reminds me of the guy, my mentor, when I was going through what I was going through. He was a strength coach at Oral Roberts University at the time. I was supposed to play basketball. I didn't wind up playing. I was down and out. He's like, man, just come hang out in the weight room. You always loved like lifting weights. Actually, his intern, his graduate assistant said that. And I was like, man, I can't do that. I'm supposed to be on the basketball court. Like the guilt, the shame, I can't be working with athletes. And so I just got around them and I started to hang out, and that grew this passion for fitness and strength conditioning. And so I'm then in his life. He's my mentor. And he comes to me one day and says, I'm getting a divorce. And I'm this faith-based guy. I'm going through what I'm going through, hell in my life. And me and him have this great relationship. Make a long story short, he leaves. I become the youngest strength coach in the nation. He divorces his wife. We keep a great relationship. And 3 years later, after they're divorced, they got back together, reconciled, and they're together. They had another kid. It's now been 15 years together. He's the only other person I know. But he said something very similar to what you said. I had to be taken away for a season, right? The old saying, the grass is always green on the other side, for me to become who I need to become. And then for her to become who she needed to become, and realize we were better together. We just need that time apart, right? And now we can't be separated.
Yeah, same thing. It's crazy.
Powerful, bro.
I think part of it, a lot of it's the faith aspect too. It's the pride aspect to it. It's a lot of it. It's a cool journey. And to be honest, it wasn't even for us about the kids. I can't recall any conversations that had anything to do with weighting it towards the kids, which it made it even better, because it's not like we're doing this for a reason besides the fact that we genuinely want to be with each other. And so there is something to that, man. But it's crazy because it's hard to get past the point where you love somebody, hate them with a passion, and then you love them deeply again. But I realized that even when I hated her, you can't hate without a sense of somewhere having love. If you didn't have a love somewhere in there, you just wouldn't care. You'd be completely apathetic to it. So when you actually analyze the disdain you have for somebody, it is rooted in a base of love for that person.
Wow, bro. But you said something earlier, super powerful what you just said. But we said earlier, you made decisions, right? You had to forgive, which was very powerful. A lot of people aren't willing to go through that process. And again, it probably wasn't just a miracle. You had your friends call, you had wise counsel, your environment, and then you did some work building the best version of you. She did some work building the best version of her. You guys had a common denominator, faith, making God the center, and now it's working out. And so I think the people on the other side don't miss that. Like, you did a lot of work, Trucks, and it wasn't easy to go through a place where you love somebody, you hate them, and then now you're madly in love again, and you say we're inseparable. Do you guys do like marriage counseling at all? Do you do marriage therapy? Do you guys speak on stage together? What's Mrs. Trucks about, man?
And Mrs. Truck lives her life, man. She's got an amazing business where she serves individuals with special needs. She has a couple schools and some like day program, group home type stuff. She runs track at 38, collegiate track, because she Yeah, she's got her master's degree, but she didn't start her athletic clock until like 2 years ago. So now she's doing collegiate sports. She technically could run with her son at college based on her times, because she set the school record for 400 like at her college with kids that are 20 years younger than her. So she's doing, but yeah, she doesn't have any aspirations in any way of speaking about what we do at an oral platform. She's like, I'll write a book and talk about it. She's like, but the speaking thing, that's your thing. She's like, I'm not. But that's just that's her thing. We've had to turn down like TV show stuff, man. We could have been on ABC talking about it all, but she's like, I don't want to do that. Like, she doesn't feel like doing it. So here's the other part of it too, is I think one of the greatest parts of what allows us to function, because I could easily hold some disdain. Like, do you know what could happen if I could get ABC? We could talk about my brand, and it could. But I go, okay, well, look at all that stuff. Somebody years ago told me, you can never want more for someone than they want for themselves.
Yeah.
Because the moment you do it, what happens is they feel inadequate because you're telling them that they're not doing enough.
Wow.
And then you feel resentment because you think they're not caring about doing enough. So I just don't want anything more for anybody. I literally can let it go. So we could do that. And I may say this like jokingly, I genuinely don't care. God will supposed to be in my life, and it's probably not going to be the ABC thing, but it'll be something else that fits in the flow. And on top of that, I would much rather have peace in my home than a facade on television and chaos at home because I made her do something she didn't want to.
Come on, bro. 100%. It makes me think, because like, the word of God says you overcome by the blood of the lamb and the word of your testimony. And there's a lot of times in life, and again, your wife's in her element, she's doing her thing, but there's a lot of times in life where there comes that season where all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, everything I went through happened for a reason, like me. And then all of a sudden you're like, I almost have like this responsibility and this calling, this obligation to share it, because it's not about me any longer. There's people on the other side. And so that might happen for your wife eventually, where she wakes up one day and says, you know what? I've been thinking about this and God put it on my heart. And like, we have to share this because there's other marriages that could be restored when they hear our story. And it's God's timing, bro. There's going to be a perfect, there's a winning season if that is to happen. I love how you said that, bro. As a man, you can't be pressuring the wife to do something she doesn't want to do. Come on now.
Nah, she'll do it to me though, bro. You know what I'm saying? But I can take it. I've naturally organized my life in a way to where I can damn near do anything. And like, I'll never complain about it. She'll ask me to do something, like, let's do it. Even if in my heart, I don't want to, my brain immediately goes to, where can I find joy in this moment I don't love? And that's it. And I will actively seek and go, oh, okay, I can do that. All right, I'm gonna do that. And then I look forward to that thing within the grander thing, and overarchingly, like, it's a positive situation. So that's not something I expect her to do or other people to do, but because I can do it, I'll lean on that. And so I navigate my life in full control of me.
Bro, that's absolutely huge. I just did a podcast. I do podcasts like this with guests, and we do these, rarely, man. We don't do a ton of these, but I do podcasts almost 5 days a week, and they're just winning words of the day. And I just did one. Richard Wiseman wrote a book, and it's called The As If Principle. And there's an old school like saying, fake it till you make it. And like, I didn't know what that meant back in the day, but I was faking it a lot till I make it. And now after I started to understand identity, it was more about not faking it, being somebody I'm not, but it was more about acting as if. And what you just said, so powerful, right? Action can cure everything. Action can change everything. And what you just said is, I don't have to wait to feel happy to act happy. And in the book, he says something, I don't remember exactly how he says it, but he says, so many people, you feel happy, so you smile. He said, What if you started to smile and realize when you smile, you'll then feel happy, how you have to act your way into feeling rather than acting how you feel. And that's what you're talking about. So much of our life is controlled by what we choose and decisions we make, and not how we feel at the moment, right?
I'm 100% that way. I mean, if you think of the logic of it, I like to take that exact same statement. I don't know where I heard something similar, but I took it back to my parenting, right? I'm a father, I got kids, and these kids, when you have a baby, the best way to explain this is, I agree, actions precede motion of emotion, right? So actions precede the motion you're talking about. On top of that, I believe action ends suffering. If I have a suffering, there's going to be some actions that I have to take when I don't feel like it that end the suffering. But if I go back to the actions and emotion thing, I have babies. Babies poop, they cry, they eat food, and all you're doing is serving this thing. And logically, if there's any other person, if I had to do it to a grown adult, I'd be like, I hate you. You're driving me insane. This is problematic. But it's interesting, even as an adult, if you do this, but mostly as a kid, with a kid that can't provide conversation, they can't even do anything. They would die if they just sat there, because you have to feed them. You still create this ridiculous level of love to where you would take a bullet for your child.
Come on.
Logic serves, and you go, okay, well, it's not so much that I get love because of what they've given me, because they haven't given me something to feel love, but it's the emotion I get from the investment of my actions. I give all this out. I receive in return the feeling of love, the connection of love. So like, my son plays tackle football, and he's not always the most confident guy some days. He's a little skinny. He's got like my body build, right? But I tell him, I say, dude, you can't go out there and wait to feel hype, to act hype. Yeah. You can't wait to feel confident, to operate confident. You must force your body from a standpoint of logic into the jumping around, yell the words, make that play. And then what comes flowing back to you is the return of confidence and getting hype. So I say, when you're sitting here waiting, like, well, it's going to feel awkward I know it's going to feel awkward, but the idea is you have to take the action to feel the emotion. And what you're going to find is the emotion isn't an awkward one. The emotion is elation. It's joy. It's when you go out there and give all to this moment and you kill somebody, wow, hit them. You don't stand up and go, I feel awkward with this. You go, it's a whole different moment. So like, son, take the actions before the emotion, and the emotion will come flowing back. But that's what I tell my kids. That's how I live my life. If I'm not feeling the best, I literally go, what action can I take? What motion can I get into? What can I do to trigger that? And that's when I find it and feel it.
Bro, that's such a, I mean, powerful, powerful lesson teaching a kid. But anybody listening right now, like if you're listening right now, that one thing can change your life. And so, what do you need to act on different to how you feel at the moment? Whatever your situation looks like right now, whatever you're going through, however you feel, you have to make a decision, feelings or actions. And what Anthony just said is so powerful. What if you were to start to act as if what you think is impossible was impossible? What if you were to start to act as if, like Anthony said, that you were confident? You will find more confidence. Act as if you are happy, you'll find more happiness. Act as if you are a winner, you'll start to become a winner. And it makes me think, because in that book I mentioned earlier, he goes into some detail where he talks about even like it almost can change your personality type, because there's chemistry that goes on in your body that if you act enough, and we're talking identity, right? This is a powerful step in identity. I think there's a couple steps in identity. The first one you mentioned earlier is you got to make a decision, right? That I don't like who I am right now at the moment. This is not, I want to become and be this person. And then we're talking about actions and habits. But in that book, he talks about, Richard Wiseman, you can act away so long that eventually you become that person and it becomes part of your identity, right? And so you got to make a decision, act first, feel second. That's why I always tell people, act first, feel second.
Yeah, you got to act first. You about to open up a box. I'll fill the box. You want to open the box? I'll fill it, man.
Let's go, baby.
So when I alluded to when I was 15, I had this moment where I showed back up in the football field after spending 2 years as trash. And I had this moment in my mind where the ball was in the air, was my football, my tackle, my game. You weren't taking it. It's because I'd done too much work in the dark for you to take what's mine in the light. And so as I do my aspect of like identity work, I started realizing when I look back at my life, every time that I elevated my identity, that I shifted to this next guy, it didn't happen in the light. It happened in the dark. I think there was something to what I call dark work. Is this concept of dark work. So actually for us as identity in our realm of my company, we have trademarked the language of dark work, because I started to understand like what people don't aspire to an identity shift. They want things that come from that. But then I'm like, okay, well, if I can't have them create, what's the thing they have to do? What is the anchored piece we can all connect to? And I can connect to everybody who is shining in some way in the light, can attach their work previously to being in the dark, which means I did something that was unseen, unsexy, difficult, unsupported, sometimes ridiculed. But I did that so long that eventually when I emerged from the darkness into the light, I could shine the brightest. And I shine the brightest when it was the hardest work. And it's not because of anything more than it's like human investment bias, which is if I've given to this thing, I am going to get my dues. If I went in the weight room and lifted all day long, ran my routes, read the playbook, when it comes to game day, bro, put me on the field.
All day.
I'm not going to hide this. And that's an identity thing.
Yep.
So for me, what I look at is, you alluded to it earlier, is you have to, in fact, rewire. So I look at who we are today. Let's take it to the beginnings conversation. If I ask somebody, who are you, would tell me who you are. And that who you are is based on the wirings through your life, based on experiences. Our brains are plastic, that neuroplasticity concept. I can teach it new things, train new things, and studies show the brain's just as plastic at 80 years old as it is at 3 years old. It's certain ways, not everywhere, but like certain ways your brain can still learn and still kind of move and groove. So I go, well, then how does that tie to identity? And I go, well, if I was shaped a certain way to create who I am today by experiences and neuroplasticity, can I do it again? Well, yes, I can do it again. And I've already done it multiple times. So I go, what is it? And I go, oh, it's a dark work experience.
Wow. It's
for the first time architecting and executing an intentionally designed dark work experience. Where can I put this in a couple simple steps. Where can I respect the shine? How do I want to shine? Can I not have envy of the person who is shining and go, what did they do? Can I respect the work that they did to get to that level of identity, that level of skill set, and do whatever it is that needs to be? Okay, great. That's what the shine looks like. Now, can I simply do the dark work?
Wow.
Can you do it? Can I step away, know what that needs to be, what it should be, and do it without putting it on social media and having everybody give me high fives? Can I do it for me? Can I do it and just look in the mirror and go, damn, good job today? Like, I see you working, bro, and just be you. So that here's the thing. When you emerge is the big piece. When I emerge into the light again, you have to compete with conviction. I think that was the most critical thing for me at 15, because when I was in the football field, I wasn't just competing. I had this rooted conviction that you will not take what I've already paid for. That's my football, my play. So it could be, that's my woman. That's my man. Those are my kids. That's my career. That's my job. That's my business, right? When you are competing with conviction because of the dark work you did, you're going to compete with yourself to get up early, compete to get the workout done, compete to say the things, compete to swallow your pride. And now what happens is you have this vastly different identity showing up. Therefore, a completely shifted view of what your future is, and your life is a whole different experience.
Bro, come on. Listen, if you're listening right now, you're watching, hit pause and rewind about 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it was, and go listen to what Anthony just said. And do not just listen, but implement, take notes. Trucks, that was powerful. So powerful, bro. I'm so grateful we did open that box and you went there. So it makes me think of like Win All Day and what we do. Obviously, our whole brand's not built around identity, but it's a part of it. Like we have 5 questions. The first one's what? You got to know what winning looks like to you. Hey, I have to have strong vision. The second one's why. There's got to be purpose, right? A strong reason why. The third one is who. Who do I need to become? And then we have a whole formula for that. And that's where the identity comes in. Who am I? Who do I need to become? And then we talk about creating the winning mindset and winning actions. And I think what you just talked about today, I'm bringing it all together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard a few things. I think the first step, if you're listening or watching right now, and you know you need to make a shift, you need to make a shift happen in life, it starts with you. And to make that shift, you got to make a decision. Number one, a decision that here's who I am. I'm making a decision that I want to change my identity. I'm not 100% happy with who I am. I want to disassociate with this old self, right? I know that this was formed over time, created through situations and circumstances, but I'm going to make a decision of what kind of new identity I want. And then we talked about, doing the hard work. That's taking action to create actual habits that line up with not who you currently are, but who you want to be. We've talked about that a lot today. And I want to go one more place with you, because this is one of the things we use within our who you need to become. And it's what changed my life. Is there any time that you started to understand that your words were so powerful? Like I tell people all the time, I think the greatest enemy we have is ourselves. The greatest opposition we have is ourselves. It's not the guy facing you on the football field, the basketball court. It's not your boss. It's not your spouse. It's not whatever, all that stuff, right? It's not the government. It's not all this stuff. It's you, right? And so you're your greatest competition. You're your greatest enemy. And so I think so many times we talk ourselves out of stuff. For me, my words, I started to build this faith by speaking different, and I stopped beating myself up. Is that in your formula at all? Did that have anything to do with how you shifted your identity and help people shift their identity? Like how you talk about yourself and how you talk about life, man.
It's all a big piece of it. So I use what's called the shift method. It's actually something. So if you think about the dark work experience being the vehicle, the engine is what I call my shift method. And it actually it's 3 simple steps. It's see, shift, sustain. The C part where you're talking about, I got to take a look at my life, what's going on, and I can see where I want to go by making a choice. The shift part is all of that. It's shifting the way that you have functioned, doing things that feel super out of character, because it'll feel weird in the beginning talking to yourself, right? But that's the process. The thing is, it should feel weird because it feels different, because that different person is who you're trying to become. So you must seek the things that make your skin crawl a little bit, but do those things. The more you do them, the edge wears off, and now it becomes who you are to do it. But part of it 100% is speaking into existence, because I alluded to earlier, we are humans that want to be in alignment. So when I speak something, I want to live in a way to make it right. So if I go, I'm stupid, I'll live in a way to be able to go, like, see, I'm dumb, right? But if I say I'm intelligent, I'll live in a way to be able to say, yeah, look, you are intelligent. Those little words power our emotions, power our actions, even at a subconscious level. The last part, sustainability. Sustaining all these things over time is the key. If you do it today, you feel weird, you stop, you make no motion. You do it today and tomorrow and that tomorrow and over again. Eventually, time floats away. You pop up 6 months from now and go, holy crap, I'm a different dude. I'm a different woman. So you must sustain it over time. That's what you've already done to become who you are now. That's what you must do to become who you are then.
Wow, bro. So powerful. So powerful. Yeah, that winning confession that we said earlier, that had you say, brother, that was one of the winning confessions I created when I was at my lowest time in life years ago. And now that's a mantra throughout our Win All Day movement. It's said all over the world. We say it with all our guests on every podcast. But I think about that because I had exactly what you just mentioned earlier. I'd look in the mirror and I would say this, and I would stop, Anthony. I would stop and I'd be like, bro, you're a joke. Like, you're a fraud. Like, what are you saying? You don't believe a word. You're here on purpose. You're a loser. You don't have custody of your dad. And I would have to go back and forth, not like negotiate with myself, try and talk me out of it, because I didn't feel one thing that I said in that winning confession that we said earlier. But as I said it enough, I started to train my subconscious mind to take on this identity. And if you're listening or watching right now, Trucks is spitting so much wisdom that has the power to change your life. Don't miss this. Words have the power, and words create meaning and emotion, like Trucks said earlier. And if you can understand that today, one of the most efficient ways to create a new identity, we talked about habits, we talked about decision, is right, your power of your words, how you talk about yourself. And I used, Anthony, the I am statement, right, from the Bible, and anything you choose to put after the words I am, right, you bring a lot of power to, you make them real. And so I created these I am statements, just started to say them over and over. Even when I felt like I was a fraud, even when I didn't feel a word, I just kept doing it. The power of repetition, just like you train on a football field or an athlete or in a weight room. You've got to train this. It's repetition. That's how you create habits. Your actions repeated over time, right?
That's how it works, man. There's no shortcut to it, man. That is the process. 100% is the process. As long as you flow in that manner, things uncover the way they're supposed to. It doesn't seem like in the beginning, but it's a matter of taking a look and going, let me just stay the course. And over time, things like a tree, man. If you look at a tree and watch it grow, it takes forever. But you leave for a little bit, live your life and do what you do and come back. All of a sudden, you have this thing that's bearing fruit.
Powerful, bro. Man, I'm so grateful for you. I want to respect your time. So tell us this, we're talking about winning all day. Winning all day is about maximizing your God-given talents and abilities. It's about showing up your best. There's a whole process behind that, but we build winners and we build winning teams, and we get to do that, and we're honored to do that. It's what my calling is. But, I'm always intrigued by this. A high performer like you, an individual like you that's winning in life, what's some of the, habits and rituals? I'm a big believer that, there's times in life you pivot and there's times in life you run audibles, but on a football field, man, you have a playbook. You go into the day with X's and O's. You go into the day with processes and systems that continue to make Anthony Trucks the man he is so he can show up and be who he needs to be. And there's times where you have to run audibles and you call the plays. But what's some of the things that Anthony Trucks does, the habits, the rituals, the routines, the plays he runs on a daily basis that can motivate, inspire the listener or the viewer on the other side that maybe they could take away? What's some of those habits for you, brother?
Man, I mean, my whole thing is I want to be in control of my life, man. I don't want to be a leaf in the wind. And it's something you have to build up to, but it starts with first trying to take control of small things and increase what your reach is. For me, my big thing is I'm in season of dad also. I want to make sure that my kids have a present father. So when they leave, they want to come home. Like, I want them to desire to come see us for the holidays. Like, I don't want them to be having like this distant relationship when they leave. It's even farther apart. Like, I want my kids to know who I am. So that's a big piece of me being present. But I have to work because I also want to be an example to them of what you can do when you create and do cool things. I say all that to say that I spend time with my kids individually and get to know them. Like, my mornings, I get up in the morning at 5:30. I get my son up at 6:25. By 6:30, we're out the house. We take a trip to the top of our hill. We do a 360 spin we can see like miles around our house. All the different cities and towns are all there. And then what we do this. What am I grateful for? We actually speak out what I'm grateful for and why. We then pray on it. We thank God for the day, for the week, whatever's going on, and those things. Take another 360, go back down the hill. We have a 48-degree cold plunge. We hop in that thing for 2 minutes to do something hard each day. It's good for the body too and good for the brain. Then we do a lead meditation in the garage on the gym floor. We just quiet down 10 minutes, have a lead meditation played on YouTube. Give him a hug, tell him I love him. He's off for the day. And I get into my day from 8 to 2:45. I am on the clock working. I'm doing this. This is my heart, my love, right? Then what happens at 2:45, I leave, get my kids at 3:09. We come back. My daughter and I work out from 3:30 till about 4:45 or 5. And then at this moment right now, so I spend time with her privately. And then at 4:45, 5, we kind of end it. I take my son to football practice. I coach him a football practice. So I have this dynamic where the kids, as far as they know, I am dad like every other dad. I may leave and go work with the Amazons of the world and the PayPals and do different stuff, but that's a day or two and I'm back here. But when I'm home, I'm not this guy that's in my laptop all day and I'm separate from them. I'm not watching TV shows with them. I'm dad. So my habits are built around be present, do things that benefit everybody. But when I'm here at work, like, I am focused. I'm not checking my stuff and scrolling through Instagram. I'm dialed so I can be present at home. So my habits are based around, am I adhering to the season of dad mentality?
Wow, bro. Wow. And off of your identity of who you want to be and who you want to become. Bro, I love what you said, because it's not just being present, but you're doing things with your kids that are instilling winning habits into them at a young age that they're going to carry into life to win in life, bro.
100%. That's how it's built.
How powerful is that? Bro, that's a powerful lesson. I believe that's going to change some people's parenting on the other side. So let's do this, man. Is there any last minute things? I always like to give the guests this opportunity that we missed. Obviously, I could talk to you all day, bro. I love who you are. I love this conversation. But what would you say to the person on the other side, man? We got pro athletes listening. Obviously, they went through some stuff. They're living this identity crisis. And I call it that because it really is for a lot of people. But what would you say to the person on the other side? Is there any last minute thoughts to make the shift happen in their life, brother? Is there anything we didn't cover that you would like to cover? This is your opportunity.
No, I mean, that's the thing. The thing is, they heard what needed to be heard today, man. I think it's not even about giving people more to listen to, but tell them to go back and apply something. That's it. Go take one piece, apply it in some manner to have that little thing be something you do over time, long term, and let it become something that adheres to your new identity you protect and keep in place. You do that, and it'll change your life. And then come back and keep listening to it. Everything that people need to hear, they probably already heard, they just haven't applied. Go apply some things.
Bro, that's the most powerful thing you could have said right there, brother. Retention without implementation is useless. Hey, you're hearing it from my man, Anthony Trucks. So do this for me really quick. What do you do and how could the people find you if they want to make a shift happen in their life? How do they get access to you? Where do you want to send them? And tell them what you do. Like, just tell them, is it coaching?
Yeah.
How do you help them and how can they find you, brother?
Oh, yeah. Well, I do speak. Obviously, I travel around the country and talk, but I do coach people on how to create and execute these dark work experiences. That's the key, man, is how can I create everything we just talked about? I walk people through a very specific process to do this. It's not just me, giving pep talks and feeling motivated. It's like, all right, I'm a football guy. I need to play. So I could tell you how to win the game, but I don't play park football. We come, we sit down, and we structure these things, and we go, okay, here is your thing we've architected. Now here's how you execute everything down to a planner of what you're doing each moment of each day. Sounds odd, but that's how you do it. You put it into structure and you stay disciplined to a plan. If you just have your discipline be emotion, when the emotion's gone, you don't stay disciplined to it. So for me, the full focus is on how can I make sure somebody is staying disciplined to the plan we created based on all the stuff we kind of put together to create that identity we're talking about shifting into.
I love it. How do they find you, brother?
At Anthony Trucks on Instagram, man. It's pretty straightforward.
Let's go. Hey, this is Coach JC. You're listening to the Win All Day podcast show. This is our special guest, Anthony Trucks. Make shift happen. And I want to say this just when you were talking. If you're listening right now, you're watching right now, we talked a lot about who you are today, identity. We talked a lot about, there's so much wisdom that Anthony gave, but I just want to say this to the listener or the viewer is, who are you? You're not average. You're not mediocre. You're not a loser. You're not defined by maybe being addicted to something. You no longer walk in fear, guilt, shame. You're not a victim. You playing small does nothing for the people you love, nothing for your business, your calling, your mission, your destiny, for the world around you. And I want to challenge you today to find who you are. Go rewind this, listen, implement. Anthony gave you practical tools, guys. People pay a lot of money for this. You go listen to this, you write some of these things down we talked about, you can radically change your life. Anthony, I'm grateful for you, bro. Blessed by you. I always like to end every show like this, man. I would love for you to say, I am Anthony Trucks. I am a winner. I will win and win all day. If you could end the show like that. I am Anthony Trucks. I am a winner. I will win and win all day.
All right. My name is Anthony Trucks. I am a winner. I will win and I will win all day.
Yeah. All day. Hey, who loves you? We love you. Once again, this concludes this episode of Win All Day podcast show. This is Coach JC. That's Anthony Trucks. Find him on Instagram. Guys, I want to remind you one last time, you were born a winner. So go in and win all day.